Coming up on NAIT NewsWatch. A sexual assault victim is working with a Canadian organization to prevent child sexual abuse through education.
Take the training and get educated and learn how you can help prevent kids from getting sexually abused.
Local communities are having a hard time receiving funding from the government to build playgrounds for young students.
We have a long ways to go. It's up to the community to make sure that they put this playground in.
Studies are finding that more Albertans are dealing with diabetes at a younger age.
Diabetes doesn't really go away. When you wake up in the morning, it's still there, and sometimes you just want to hang out with your friends.
Good evening and welcome to this week's episode of NAIT NewsWatch Extra.
Tonight on the show is a conclusion of all of our hard work and projects of the fall semester.
We've all worked really hard on special features specifically for this week's show.
Coming up, our Kathy Lee joins us with a story that hits close to home.
One glimpse of this photo of a happy 4-year-old Laura would make it hard to believe anyone could do harm to this little girl. It's been 24 years since the nightmare ended, but for Laura, it's still an uphill battle to recovery.
There's times where I wake up and I'm literally reliving these things in my head. When I'm dreaming, I'm not Laura adult. I'm the little girl, and I'm feeling the pain and I'm feeling the feelings.
Child sexual abuse is a silent crime because, as statistics show, it usually involves a family member, which is why it's more frequently covered up.
You know, the adult knows best. You're taught that, and the person who is supposed to love me and take care of me and make sure that I'm safe is the one who's doing these things. When we were really, really lucky, we got to sleep in the bunk bed. But when she was on a tangent, we had to sleep in the big bed, and all 4 of us together. And I remember having my first oral sex experience as a 5-year-old.
Wanting to move from a victim to survivor, Laura took part in the Little Warriors 2010 My Name Is awareness campaign as a survivor of child sexual abuse. Little Warriors is a charitable organization based in Canada that works to prevent child sexual abuse through education. Wanting to take her involvement with the charity one step further, Laura is now training to become a facilitator of the prevention program offered by Little Warriors.
Take the training. Like, everybody's got kids in their life. Take the training and get educated and learn how you can help prevent kids from getting sexually abused.
The progress for more severe punishment is gradual, but there is light at the end of the tunnel.
It's only in the last 2 weeks that finally the government has announced that they're going to put new mandatory minimums in the system for people that sexually abuse children.
By having the courage to speak and knowing she's not alone in the fight, Laura has found internal peace and happiness.
I have discovered that I'm not just a plaything for someone else's whims. I'm a real person, and I'm capable of real things. And it's been an amazing experience to acknowledge that and give that to myself. And without the love of my family, I wouldn't be able to do that.
Reporting for NAIT NewsWatch Extra, I'm Kathy Lee.
Some schools are lacking the very place where so many childhood memories are made: playgrounds.
With provincial funding harder than ever to achieve, schools struggle to build playgrounds for their students. 4 new schools opened on the south side this past year, and another is scheduled for 2012.
That when I did the registration, that I just assumed, and I was shocked. There was no playground.
With daily physical activity mandatory and child obesity on the rise, recess and lunch times are more important.
Children need to be moving around and engaged in learning, and so what better way to learn than to be outside and get some fresh air, and also the whole socialization process. Very important to build good, solid relationships, and do that not just in the classroom, but also in the play component.
Due to there not being enough money in school budgets, most of the money raised is done by parent volunteers and community groups.
The city has a grant program that will, given varying circumstances, contribute matching money that will equate to the money that is raised by a local community league.
And although the city would suggest that it's a small burden put on the community, $125,000 in this day, in this economy, is quite difficult.
Not only do schools in Edmonton have issues getting money for new playgrounds, some rural communities also struggle to get the funding. Provincial grants are often a lot harder to receive. The small town of Smoky Lake, located approximately an hour north of the city, is also facing challenges. Although they currently have some playground equipment left, due to the hazard ratings, more and more is being removed.
We have a long ways to go. It's up to the community to make sure that they put this playground in. The school won't. All they'll do is remove the equipment.
Seminuk has two small children, one which is already attending H.A. Kostash School.
I like to play on the swings and no slide.
One of the biggest struggles of building a new playground is receiving money from the provincial government.
We're going to apply for a community facility enhancement grant.
There are over 400 applications currently in for the CFEP grant, and no specific way in which one project is chosen over another.
You have to be realistic in what's going to happen, and they haven't been funding full projects in this community for quite some time.
This has been Maria Boychik for NAIT NewsWatch Extra. Homework, studying, and exams can consume most of your time.
Imagine juggling work, all your responsibilities, in addition to having diabetes. Julie Finkelman has more.
Diabetes currently affects over 200,000 people in Alberta. Cases are becoming more prominent in people under 20 years old, forcing students and young children to face the disease. Tanya Didick starts off her day like most other university students, forcing herself out of bed and getting ready for school. The difference? Tanya was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at a very young age.
Well, I've had diabetes since I was less than 2 years old. And so really it's just part of my life now. I don't really know what it's like not to have diabetes.
Didick has to check her blood sugar levels multiple times a day, which can be a bit difficult.
A lot of people, they have to check their blood sugars right before they eat, so they'll have to get up and go to the washroom because you don't really want to do something like that in public, so it's just a lot more of almost a hassle.
From working on homework to preparing food, Tanya is constantly faced with the disease.
One of the things that is challenging about it is having to deal with it every day. Diabetes doesn't really go away. When you wake up in the morning, it's still there, and sometimes you just want to hang out with your friends.
Before eating, Didick has to go through a mental checklist.
I have to do a blood test. I have to make sure my blood sugar is within the right range before I can eat. I have to measure out my food. I have to count out the carbohydrates. And I have to give a certain amount of insulin for the food I'm about to eat before I can eat it.
Tanya uses an insulin pump instead of a needle, which gives her more control of her schedule.
So it just goes in the skin, and it gives a certain amount of insulin every hour. So before I was on a really strict diet, and I had to eat this amount at this time every single day, so I wasn't able to sleep in. And I had to work my schedule around my meal times.
Didick is always staying busy and doesn't let her diabetes slow her down.
I like to stay busy. I have a part-time job. I'm on a competitive soccer team. I have a social life.
Tanya faces her challenges head-on and has learned to live happily with diabetes. Julie Finkelman, NAIT NewsWatch Extra.
Coming up next, athletes take the necessary precautions to prevent injuries.
I just kept hit from behind and went straight to the boards, got knocked out.
And we find out how concussions can affect an athlete's performance, brain, and memory years after a big hit.
You really take some time to rest.
Hockey players of today have been described as to have razors on their feet and clubs in their hands.
While the violence in hockey is as old as the sport itself, the discussion of how to prevent it or remove it is only sparked when something drastic happens. Cody Millard has more.
Martin keeps it away from Trupp, but Trupp takes Jesse Martin down for Denver. Well, Martin didn't see it coming, Pat. That's
right.
That's the key. He wasn't able to brace as he was looking up ice, his head down. He wasn't able to brace as he was looking up ice, his head down.
The accident involving Jesse Martin hits close to home for many who engage in the sport of hockey. For Zach Millard, it's a dark reminder of the aggressive nature the sport he chooses to play harbors.
Just got hit from behind real. It was just an awkward situation. I just get hit from behind and went straight into the boards, got knocked out. Don't really remember it that well. And then I got taken off in a stretcher.
Injuries like those suffered by Jesse and Zach are the most common in a fast-paced game like hockey. In fact, 42% of the injuries in hockey are to the head and face, as well as 42% of injuries suffered are caused by a body check, while 67% of injuries in the game of hockey are felt by forwards.
The body contact and brutal stick work may have come to be known as part of the game, but that doesn't excuse the countless injuries that have been suffered due to these actions. Ensuring that you are properly equipped is the best way to reduce your chances of experiencing one of these incidents.
Well, the biggest thing is, again, the helmets with, with the extra protection they have. Also, too, just, maybe some of the shoulder pads with the bigger shoulder caps with the better types of foams that they have now will absorb a lot more shock, and then they'll use all those foams throughout the rest of the equipment as well.
Protecting the skater's head is a top priority. There are other ways to see this done, however. Wearing full visors can protect a player from losing their teeth or breaking bones in their face.
I just can't see where NHL players would be, wanting to wear anything like that. I could see, maybe mandating that they wear visors, but I can't see where there's that many injuries where the players would want to wear the full visors.
Goudreau adds that the best way for injuries to be prevented is for the players to respect each other more. But with all of the injuries and the violence, Zach Millard's view on hockey won't change.
I've just played the game too much. I love it too much that I don't think I'll ever stop, really. It's just a fun game to play, regardless if there's contact or not.
While no sport itself is perfect, the dedication shown by hockey players to their game proves that not even getting a little roughed up will prevent them from lacing up their skates. For NAIT NewsWatch Extra, I'm Cody Millard.
Cody Millard showed us how injuries can happen in hockey and how serious they can often be.
Now Taylor Pullman joins us to show us the occurrence of concussions in both amateur and professional sport. He's also here to show us the long-term effects that these injuries can have.
Amateur and professional sports has many injuries throughout the season. Recent research conducted by the National Football League and the National Hockey League has shown that concussions may be the most serious of them all.
Hockey, football, and boxing are all sports where concussions are seen on a frequent basis throughout the sporting world. However, unlike most injuries where the body displays an external sign of damage, the brain typically hides the symptoms where only the affected member experiences them. Team therapists like Brian Cheeseman of the Oil Kings are challenged when it comes to diagnosing these injuries.
As a trainer, it's kind of the one that it's going to happen. You really don't look forward to having to treat it because it can be so ambiguous. Player A can have a concussion and miss a week. Player B can have one and miss a year.
Andre DeChamplain, who plays senior AA hockey in the capital city, still complains of occasional fuzziness and headaches, a year after receiving a devastating hit that kept him off the rink. First couple of days, however, were the worst according to DeChamplain.
Definitely lightheaded, right on the top of my head. Felt like real sharp pains, didn't really know what was going on. Took about 3 days for me to decide to go to the doctor to get things checked out.
Though Andre has experienced one concussion throughout his playing career, some athletes who have experienced multiple concussions are at risk for more serious injuries.
There is certainly considerable evidence to suggest that some players that have these multiple cumulative concussions, when they hit their kind of middle ages around 40, a lot of them show a lot of difficulties with their psychological functioning, much more at risk for anxiety and for depression, suicidal thinking, that type of thing, as well as cognitive difficulties.
The NFL study also shows a possible link between certain characteristics in a person that makes it more susceptible to concussions. The characteristics include a past history of migraines, psychological difficulties, learning difficulties, and even a slighter higher incidence level in people who are left-handed.
There's lots of pressure on athletes to just miss as little time as possible when it comes to an injury. Experts say when it comes to a concussion, take as much time as possible. Otherwise, serious side effects can affect you later in your life.
The message we're trying to get across is to make sure that you really take some time to rest, both from a physical perspective, so don't engage in exertional activity, and also from a cognitive perspective. Don't play video games all night.
Cheetahsman believes being honest may keep you out of the game a little longer than you'd like, but will ultimately help you in the long run.
Yeah, it affects them now, but it's 20 years down the road. They want to be able to remember their kids' names and where they live. So
For NAIT NewsWatch, I'm Taylor Pullman.
The Alberta Art Gallery showcases hundreds of exhibits every year. Art for the community.
Brianna McCutcheon shows us exactly what it takes to set up one of their many exhibits.
Upon arrival to the Art Gallery of Alberta, you can't help but think that you are still outside because of all the open space and windows that make you feel free. A contest was created to choose an architect to build the new AGA in 2005, and Randall Stout Architects Inc. was chosen. The new building has increased the exhibition space from 16,000 square feet to 30,000 square feet. With that said, Clint Wilson, the senior preparator, let us in on what his responsibilities are on the job.
My job at the Art Gallery of Alberta is senior preparator. I'm responsible for exhibition changes, the care of the collection, and the planning phase of exhibition development.
Taking down an exhibition is labor-intensive. Since it is also time-consuming, the team had most of the artwork already put away, ready to move on to the next task. But before moving on is allowed, another preparator had to inspect the artist's work for damages.
After they're taken off the wall, they're put on a table and they're condition reported. And that's just basically checking the state of damage to them, if there's any extra ones from previous or not. It happens after, or before and after every exhibition that something's in.
We're at the wall renovation stage where we're sanding, patching, and repainting the walls for the next exhibition. We will also be reconfiguring some of the larger temporary walls. That will take maybe about a week. And then the new exhibition comes in and we install that over about a week and a half. So about 3 weeks from now we'll have a new exhibition for the gallery.
The biggest enemy when setting up and/or taking down any exhibit is the time crunch.
The big stress today, I think, is just getting the walls patched fast enough so that we can start painting, because painting is a long process and it takes a long time to dry, and we want to make sure that it's dry before the artwork goes on.
Every detail needs to be just right so that this once boring, glum room can be transformed into a fantastically clean-cut, eye-catching new gallery.
After the 6-month process between the budget planning all the way through production, once it's done, it's quite beautiful to see.
This is Brianna McCutcheon signing out for NAIT NewsWatch Extra.
Coming up next, the interactive sea lion show makes a splash at West Edmonton Mall.
I love how the lion went sliding along in front of you.
A NAIT radio grad tries her luck as one of Canada's newest TV sports hosts.
Jason Greger approached me and said that he wanted me to come and co-host and produce his show.
Fierce determination, a strong work ethic, and a large knowledge of sports pushed a former NAIT student into a career of a lifetime.
Acting as co-host, producer, and account manager for the Team 1260 radio show, Meg Morrison is the ultimate package.
It's Meg Morrison calling with the Team 1260 in Edmonton. How you doing today?
Mixing her strong passion for sports and love of broadcasting, Meg Morrison was able to become a powerhouse in the sports world. She graduated from NAIT in 2004 with honors and 2 sports broadcasting related scholarships.
When I first saw my sister going through a bunch of applications for college and deciding where she wanted to go, and I was like, oh, this program looks pretty cool. And I'd always kind of had it in the back of my mind. I guess I always knew that I was more suited, especially with my personality, to be in this sort of field, and I was like, yeah, let's just go for it.
Morrison's career started quickly, and during her last semester at NAIT, she was hired as a community cruiser for Cool 880 AM. Aside from schoolwork and her new job, Meg was offered another opportunity.
Actually, right out of NAIT, I started working in television at a company called Aquila Productions, because the boss of that, Don Metz, saw me there and he figured that he wanted me to come work for him. So that was when I was still at NAIT, so I ended up making that my practicum as well. And then from there, I was there for a couple of years, and I decided that I wanted to get back into radio. He got sick of waiting, but he wanted to chirp you about not having an iPod.
Oh,
I don't really think that's a big offense.
Working alongside host Jason Greger, Meg loves coming to work every day and being able to discuss sports. Greger, also a former NAIT student, hosts his own sports radio show every day from 2 to 6 p.m. Greger credits NAIT for teaching him the value of hard work, multitasking, and embracing every opportunity possible.
They taught me a lot of things, production, everything else that nowadays in the business, if you can't multitask and do a lot of different things, you're not going to make it in radio or in television. And they really kind of hammered home that. So I enjoyed every minute I had at NAIT. It was a lot of fun.
Aside from her position at the Team 1260 with Jason Greger, Meg took her sports knowledge and auditioned for Gillette's Drafted 2, the search for Canada's next sportscaster, on The Score.
So they had done the same thing last year, but they were more closed off auditions. You had to send in a tape before and then they had to pick you to come to it. This year they were just open auditions. So I drove down to Calgary. They didn't come to Edmonton this year. And I figured, well, let's just see what happens. How do you determine what your finishing move will be when it comes to the fans' point of view and making it the most exciting possible?
Meg loves her job at the Team 1260 and hopes to continue working with Jason Greger. Meg also hopes to get the opportunity to work a little more into sports television and see where it takes her.
It's all of that on Edmonton Sports Radio, Team 1260.
West Edmonton Mall is a very popular Christmas shopping destination.
And not only is it a popular Christmas shopping destination, but it's also home to some friendly little animals. Our Rachel Lees takes a look at the Sea Lion Rock Show.
The Sea Lions Rock Show at West Edmonton Mall continues to make a splash. The show is an energetic water adventure starring Edmonton's California Sea Lions. The show displays the animals' incredible talent while giving a glimpse of the sea lions' natural history. They showcase how unique these animals are while putting on a tremendous show for everyone to enjoy.
I love how the lion went sliding along in front of you, where you get to see him and enjoy how he moves. And just the expression on her face is great.
We like the Sea Lion Show. It's the first time this little guy's seen it. It was interactive.
They even have a new sea lion, Quinty, who is training her way to stardom.
She's been undergoing our operant conditioning techniques, and she's in 2 of the scenes of our shows along with our pre-shows, so it's very entertaining for us.
These sea lions do incredibly well at their stunts, acting, and making the kids cheer. With their dancing and diving, they do not disappoint. Because the California sea lion is a very social animal, they love to meet people and make new friends. After the show, the audience even gets the opportunity to take pictures with their favorite sea lions.
We got our picture took at the end of it, which was nice. You get to get really up close.
Not only is the show enjoyable and entertaining for all who watch, it is a great experience to learn about who these animals really are.
So they get to see where he lives and how they swim and what they eat and how they play. And she enjoyed that, didn't you?
These sea lions perform and educate people, but along with that, the owners say they have the top quality of life.
They get their own maids here. That's us. We clean up after them all the time. They get their own personal chefs. Again, us. All our animals here get fed restaurant quality fish. And they have their own doctor to come and check them if they're ever sick. These animals have the best quality of life, and not only that, they have no predators.
Also part of the undersea adventure at West Edmonton Mall is the Sea Life Caverns. It's their underground aquarium that's home to many other sea life creatures, including sharks, turtles, and even their African penguin colony. This glimpse into underwater life is a fun and educational experience for people of all ages. For NAIT NewsWatch Extra, I'm Rachel Lees.
You may find lions, tigers, and bears in the wild, but you'll find all that and more at the Edmonton Valley Zoo.
Our Jessica Kent takes an inside look at what it takes to maintain this animal kingdom.
The Edmonton Valley Zoo is more than just a job for many zookeepers. It's their sanctuary, their hobby, and their home away from home.
I love working here because of the relationship that I've built with the animals. It is great when you come to the zoo and you're working with these animals and they give you the special greeting that they reserve for their special people.
After spending the last decade working at the zoo, Jessie Popowich treats her furry friends more like family than a work responsibility. Knowing what they like and what makes them tick is how she feels connected to the animals at all times.
Sydney has been here the longest. He's been here since 1978. He's actually scared of tree branches and sticks. So when I put him back in his cage, he got a little upset and jumped to the ground. It's because he used to be chased with sticks.
Regular feeding and cleaning times are easier said than done for Popowitz, who occasionally has to clean the nocturnal section. An early morning for her means a long, restful sleep for the sloths, kinkajous, armadillos, and bats.
They're actually the only armadillo in the world that can completely roll themselves into a ball. The only thing that could get through this is a jaguar or a human with a tool.
Popowitz says that feeding the snakes dead rabbits and mice once a week was one of the hardest duties to get used to. But after growing attached to them, the reptiles are one of her favorite species at the zoo and has now taken a great interest in them.
Animals are always surprising you, and they always have something for you to learn from them, and it's just nice to spend time with them.
Although there has been some controversy with the Valley Zoo in particular on raising their hoof stock in confined areas, some debates have been settled claiming as long as they're with their family, they'll be just fine.
Animals in the wild don't always have access to medical care or food all the time, and we give them that, so it can increase their lifespan.
Whether she's visiting with the birds of prey or cleaning rabbit cages, Popowitz is one zoo attendant who wants to spend another 10 years working with her furry friends.
It's spending time with the animals. That's definitely the best part of it.
Jessica Kent, NAIT NewsWatch Extra.
Thank you for joining us over the past few weeks watching some of our stories.
Check out naitnewswatch.ca for show archive and TV personalities.
You can check out an all-new cast in the new year on NAIT NewsWatch.
Thanks for watching and have a good night.